development and would welcome to hear any suggestions from the membership in this regard. PAIB has taken another initiative from this year by introducing Professional Excellence Awards to recognize the talent of the members who have excelled in their organizations. This award would recognize talent, contribution, and services of the members who have worked to create success with innovation and diligence. I must appreciate the novel idea, and it is indeed a step in the right direction. In the end, I would like to again compliment Mr. Yaqub Sutar and his team for their efforts in putting together such a successful conference. The previous two conferences, and this is the third conference, and I'm told the registration is plus 500. And recognizing the outstanding professionals, I look forward to your continued participations in all events of the Institute in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Masood. This conference is geared towards growth and success. So this is success and growth not only in business but also in careers and education. We'll be spending today mostly learning from the experience of the wealth of knowledge that our advisors, our speakers have to offer. The takeaways will be simple: education, awareness, and self-improvement. This conference, like Mr. Masood said, is part of the Golden Jubilee celebrations at ICAP. For 50 years, this organization has educated, has led the education sector, has led the regulation and development of the accounting and auditing sector in Pakistan. And today, it has access to people like yourselves, who are a pool of wealth and serving, like Mr. Masood said, not only within Pakistan and abroad. None of this would have been possible without the support of our sponsors, of course. Platinum sponsors MCB Bank, gold sponsors Mizan Investments, Faisal Bank, and Mizan Bank. Silver sponsors Allied Bank, Askari Bank, Engro Corp, HBL, Toyota Indus Motors, and Pakistan State Oil. Our media partners, Business Recorder, and our lunch sponsors for today, RFAB Limited. The conference producers are Terabiz, and my name is Imtiaz, and I will be guiding you through the conference today. We'll begin the proceedings of this event with the keynote speech by Mr. Roger Tabor. Since 2009, Mr. Tabor chairs the Professional Accountants Business Committee at the International Federation of Accountants and has represented 4 accountancy bodies as a committee member in the UK since 2005. Mr. Tabor has over 37 years of experience working with the British Post Office, which is now known as the Royal Mail. In the 1980s, Mr. Tabor was responsible for preparing the corporate plan for the British Post Office, including negotiating its performance and financial targets. And later on, he was finance director at the Post Office Counters Limited, which handled over-counter transactions of over 150 billion pounds. In the early 2000s, he directed the implementation of the new financial system at the Royal Mail, which was at that time the largest SAP implementation in Europe. Mr. Tabor is an organist and a music leader at his local church, has 2 children, 2 grandchildren, which he loves dearly, and he lives in Hertfordshire, England. Please welcome Mr. Roger Tabor.
Thank you very much for that introduction. President, Vice President, Council members, congratulations on your 50th year, your Golden Jubilee. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an honour for me to be invited to address this distinguished gathering and a welcome opportunity to speak to an influential group about the work of my committee and how it relates to people like yourselves. We are meeting in difficult times. Challenges for businesses, government organisations vary in mix and intensity around the world. Recent work by the PAIB committee identified globalisation, increasing complexity and rapid technology change as 3 key megatrends affecting business. But these must be placed against the backcloth of 3 other pressing considerations. The recent banking crisis, still affecting major Western economies, and its subsequent global financial impacts, changes in the political and economic balance of power, including present unrest in the Middle East and North Africa, and the effects of climate change and natural disaster, felt in this country as deeply as anywhere. For accountants in organisations, there's a lot to focus on. Difficult times pressure political regulators to create extra burdens in accounting and auditing and transparency. Sustainability of our economies calls for organisations to take a longer-term approach than the quarter-to-quarter global stock markets seem able to work with. Emerging markets will steadily assume greater importance, but may initially require more tailored approaches. And it isn't only in emerging economies that small businesses are of key importance, yet so often our rules are a burden to them. Nor do these issues affect only business. Governmental organisations often desperately need improved accountability, greater transparency and financial control to the benefit of taxpayers and the local business environment. Businesses operating internationally have a broader perspective than many politicians do, and maybe they can become more influential. So what does all this mean for us accountants? Our profession supports global convergence in the general interest both of fair comparisons and a reduced compliance burden. We champion high ethical and reporting standards. We stand for openness and transparency, so stakeholders cannot be misled. Importantly, we can exert influence in such matters on governments, regulators, and the investment community. All these actions foster effective economies and markets. But we are also in a key position to influence what goes on inside organisations. We have at our disposal tools to improve financial and operational performance of businesses and public bodies. We are also increasingly recognising that true success must be sustainable in the long term, taking all resources into consideration, and requiring us to recognise a broader range of stakeholders than just our providers of financing. To influence these things and in world markets and the global economy, we need to speak with one voice. This requires international cooperation and leadership. Well, that's what the International Federation of Accountants is for. We represent some 2.5 million professionals in 164 member bodies in 125 countries. And, by the way, many more than half of these are working in business and public sector organisations or in academia or consultancy. These IFAC calls professional accountants in business. And when I use the abbreviation PAIB, they are who I mean. It's on their needs that my committee is focused. IFAC recently restated its vision and mission. Its vision is that the global accountancy profession be recognised as a valued leader in the development of strong and sustainable organisations, financial markets and economies. The inclusion of organisations is significant because it places the role of the managerial accountant centrally within the vision. IFAC's core values of integrity, expertise and transparency remain as beacons of what we stand for and on what our reputation depends. IFAC's mission statement draws out its long-standing commitment to supporting the standards by which professional accountants operate and giving guidance in areas where formal standards are less appropriate. IFAC encourages the development of strong professional accountancy organisations and firms. We see this in the annual addition of new associates who eventually become members. IFAC has an important international advocacy role, speaking out on matters of public interest and how professional accountants contribute to it, and generally promoting the value they bring to organisations, to markets and economies. This diagram lifted from IFAC's strategic plan, has this mission at its